Okay. There we go. Alright guys, so today I'm going to make my garlic mac and cheese sauce. My nephew's birthday party is the end of this month, and I'm going to take garlic mac and cheese, and one of the main ingredients is milk, and in my house milk doesn't last. So I'm going to go ahead and make it now while I have the milk, and then just freeze it and thaw out the sauce the night before so I can make the macaroni, boil the noodles and everything in the morning. So let's get going. So first you're going to need cornstarch, stick of butter, broth based chicken, some garlic, a bunch of cheese. I'm doing a double batch, so 4 cups of milk, 1/3 cup of flour, a whisk and a spatula, or a big spoon to stir with, but you need a whisk to begin with, a spoon for the garlic, and a tablespoon. So let me turn you over here towards the stove and bring you a little closer. Okay, so I have my Dutch oven, which I love. Turn the burner on medium-high and put in the stick of butter and let it melt. Put it up on high to get it going pretty quick. So I'm gonna let that melt, and then I'll bring you right back. Alright, so I repositioned my camera. I also forgot to tell you, you need some Parmesan cheese. I usually use a half a container. And you can't cook without a cup of coffee. So the butter is melted, and I'm going to take about 1 heaping tablespoon and about 1/2 of one. Put the garlic in and stir that around. Let it sit for a few seconds so it can marry into the butter. Alright. And this is where you're going to need your whisk and your flour. So dump your flour in. Whisk that all around. You get a nice roux in there. And I'm on about medium heat. Alright, so you have a nice roux. Now take your milk and start pouring it in and whisking up that roux. Oops, pour it in the pot. And whisk up that roux, break it all up in there. Spill some on the stove. Let that milk get a little warm because it was cold. Turn on my heat just a little bit. Smell that garlic. And I usually pour this over 2 cups of noodles, or 2 pounds of noodles, I'm sorry. We like elbow noodles, but you can do it on bow tie or shells or any of that. Alright, so that's all incorporated. Now you want to get your broth base. Make sure it's the powder, not the liquid bouillon. And listen to the dogs bark. Give me 1 second. Let me find out why they're barking. Okay, who knows what they were barking at. Anyway, you want to get 2 good tablespoons of that. Whisk that in really good. Then grab your cornstarch. Sprinkle that in, and you want 2 tablespoons of that as well. Whisk all that in. Turn it up a little bit so that the cheese is going to melt in a few minutes when I go to put it in. It doesn't take long really at all to make this. I have a friend that actually pays me $10 to make him a bowl of or a pot of this because he likes it so much. So the last time I made it, I only did 1 pound of noodles, but I doubled the sauce. So I put half the sauce in with the noodles and gave him that, and then bagged up the rest of the sauce, and that way he could put it in the freezer so next time he wanted it, he could thaw out the sauce and boil his own noodles. Okay, so I'm gonna dump in the rest of my Parmesan cheese that I have in here. Whisk that in. And if you wanted to use 2 different types of shredded cheese, you can. The original recipe called for cheddar and mozzarella. So I just got one from Walmart in a giant bag that's pretty much already both of those mixed. I just take handfuls at a time and dump it in. You want anywhere between 3 and 4 cups of cheese. If you want it really thick, add more. But I put in a handful at a time and then whisk it so it melts. And you can feel it starting to get thick already. My kids absolutely love this mac and cheese. And when I do it for an actual dinner for them, I put in kielbasa or any type of sausage like that. I'll fry up the sausage, cut it up, fry it up, and then after the mac and cheese is put together, I add in the sausage, and the kids absolutely love it. Alright, see, it's starting to get thick. So we're gonna keep adding our cheese. Probably a little bit more. And then this should be good enough right here. Put that aside. And then just stir that in. Let it get all melted. And after this cools, I'll put it in my sealer bags and lay it out flat, and then put it in my freezer and let it freeze. And then I'll pull it out, like I said, the night before my nephew's party so it can thaw out. And then the morning of his party, I'll boil the noodles and heat this back up, pour it on, we'll be good to go. Alright, that looks just about done. And see, it's nice and thick. And sometimes, like when I do pour it into the noodles, I don't pour it all at once, because sometimes I don't need it all, sometimes I do. It's a guess. But whatever I don't use, I never throw it away. I always freeze it. And that way, if there's just a little bit, I'll put it in a small sandwich bag and the kids can thaw it out and boil a little bit of noodles and make their own mac and cheese. Which is yet to happen, even though I've thought about it. Alright, and there you go. That's all there is to making the cheese for garlic mac and cheese.